All right, Nick, let's talk about the Miami Hurricanes. Hurricanes obviously making it into the big show. Great for them. I think it's going to be a really exciting to watch them perform in the college ball playoff. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I think the future of the Hurricanes is looking bright. The 2026 class has had signing day. The dust is settling. We're getting to analyze these classes and see what's going on. And something special for the 2026 class for Miami has happened. They've done something they have not done in the past, and they're looking very, very good going forward. We'll break it all down here in just 1 second. But first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, the Hurricanes 2026 class is, for all intents and purposes, in the book. We got to see the signings, we got to see the players that are most likely going to be coming in. There's some things that can change, a little bit more or less down the stretch, but for all intents and purposes, we know what's going on for this 2026 class. I think Miami has done something quite special here. Let's get into the article, and I'll kind of break down what is exactly special about it on the other side. So this is from On3 Sports and says, much like he did at Oregon, Mario Cristobal continues to take Miami to the new highs on the recruiting trail. The Canes signed a solid yet unspectacular class in 2025 that ranked 14th and only had 12 blue chip players in it. Fast forward a year, and we're telling a different story. In addition to signing Jackson Cantwell, Rivals #1 overall recruit, Miami tied for the second most blue chip signees of any program. Wide receiver and defensive back were two major priorities, each with multiple 4-stars in the fold. They also landed the nation's #7 defensive lineman in Keyshawn Stansel and 3 4-star edge rushers in D'Anthony Lafayette, Jordan Campbell, and Ashari Charles. Cristobal and co. have built an identity on winning at the line of scrimmage, and they're looking for that to continue. So what does it sound like? Miami doing really good as far as getting high-quality blue chip talent. They had signed the second most blue chip players of all classes. Tied for first was only Texas A&M and USC, ahead of the Hurricanes. Miami doing really good. But I think there's something a little bit more special because you look at Miami's classes, and yeah, this year they signed 30 players, and 20 of those guys or so being blue chip players. It sounds good, but they've done something I think is quite remarkable as far as with the volume approach. They haven't lacked in the quality of players they are getting. It's not just, okay, they've got, abundance more of blue chip players because they've brought in a ton more players. They've actually kept the numbers high and the talent high at the same time, which I think is very difficult to do, but they're able to do just that, which leads me to my next chart here showing over the past 4 years, 4 recruiting classes for the Hurricanes and what they're able to do. As you can see, outside of last year, where the total players in that class a little bit lower than normal, Miami class size has remained within 2 or 3 players of each other, relatively the same size, but the amount of blue chip talent they brought in this year is substantially higher. So we see in 2023, 15 blue chip players to 27 overall total players, making that 55.5% of the class was blue chip players. In 2024, 15 blue chip players again to 28 players in that class. Again, very similar numbers, 53.5% of that class. In 2025, again, like I said, a smaller class, 12 blue chip players to 21 total players, giving them 57.1% of that class to be blue chip. Now, what's special here, the biggest class yet for Miami, 2026, 30 overall players, 20 of them being blue chip players, giving them a 66.6% of their class. Almost 2/3 of that class is blue chip talent. So as the number has gone up for Miami, the amount of blue chip players they have brought in has gone up, and the amount of blue chip players that dominate that class still has been high as well. So I love this for Miami. It shows they're just bringing in more and more quality. They're not bringing in, players that are never going to see the light of day on this field just to get a volume class, to get their ranking high up in the numbers. They're actually bringing in more quality overall players. And I think that's going to suit them very, very well for the future. Curious what your thoughts are on all of this, Nick. But before we get to you, Hurricanes fans, in the comment section below, let's talk about it. Let's talk college football playoff right around the corner. Miami looking very exciting to come into there. They've been a great force in the college football world this season. What are you thinking about the game? What do you think the final score of this game is? Early on, we'll probably ask again later on. But initial thoughts, you've seen the rankings come out. You've seen who you're going to face. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Final score of that game. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything here for Miami?
So there are different phases programs go through, right, as they work their way up and down the ladder of college football success, right? Obviously, the first phase is, baseline competency. That's getting to like the 4 or 5 wins. That's Miami's far beyond that. The next one is mid-tier, lower tier bowl eligibility, right? That's 6 to 8 wins. Obviously, the Hurricanes are well beyond that. Then there's the double-digit win pseudo contender area, right? That's where Miami kind of was going into last season, just missed the playoffs, even though they got double-digit wins. Then there is contender but not elite, and that's where Miami is right now, right? Obviously a contending team, back-to-back double-digit win seasons. They're going to the college football playoff. They're a clear contender. I think they got a chance to do a lot of damage in the playoff. I really do. But the reality is they're not, one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in college football. Their record, while outstanding, obviously you have 2 losses. When you look at those losses and you look at what they've done over the course of the season and some of their issues and some of their flaws, you'd say, okay, they're good, not great, not elite. Now, how do you take that next step? How do you transition into that elite phase and you get a higher quality in terms of the ratio of your recruits being those elite players, right? We always want to talk about, well, what makes a team good? And the reality is it's pretty darn simple: having good players. The best team in the country, usually most years, is the team that has the best players. No, not always the case. The Indiana Hoosiers over the past couple of years have been sort of the aberration to that rule. An incredible job by Coach Curt Cignetti. But the reality is 99 times out of 100, the best team in America is a team that has the most best players in America. It's usually how it works. Now, obviously, you want to have a complete team and a balanced team, but if you have a higher percentage of your team being the blue chips, the 5 stars, the 4 stars, over the long term, if you have a good coaching staff and a good developmental program, you will win a whole heck of a lot more than everybody else. Right, we look at the greatness of Nick Saban with the Alabama Crimson Tide, and everyone talks about, defensive strategy, how he works with the coaches, how he built that program and that culture, and all that, of course, is really important. But we all know what the biggest reason Alabama won every year is because they had the best recruiting class every single year, year after year. If it wasn't the best, it was a very close second, right? With a lot of blue chip guys, a high concentration of blue chip guys, right? Not trying to discount anything that Saban and his coaches did when it came to game day and practices. That was very important. But listen, if you have the best players, generally you'll win football games. I played 4 years of college football FCS level, and I can tell you the reality is the seasons we had losing seasons is because the other teams had better players than we did. The year we had 1 year where we had a pretty good team. We had a winning season at least. We had a lot of games where we had better players. Like, we want to think this game is complex. We want to think it's some really, the coaching strategy, the X's and O's, a crazy concept here, who's got the most exotic blitz package or whatever, right? The reality is, especially in college football, if you've got better players, especially a concentration of high quality players, you're going to win. And that's what exactly Miami has accomplished in their most recent recruiting class. But I think it's also important to highlight where Miami is in terms of going into this recruiting class and at the end of the 2025 campaign in the context of their conference, the ACC. Miles, let's go and pull up the graphic, if you don't mind, talking about Miami's domination of the ACC as a complete football team. So this is a graphic per True Media, great analytics platform. We love working with them on this channel. And you can see the x-axis, the horizontal there, that's the EPA, expected points added per play offensively. The y-axis is defensive EPA per play, defensive expected points added. And EPA, for those of you who aren't familiar, is just an analytical model to sort of factor in success. So, right, if you score a touchdown on offense, that's an expected points added of 6. You scored a touchdown, right? It's just, and from backing up from there, right? It's just a way to sort of, not look at volume yards and volume first downs, because we all know that can be misleading, when you look at garbage time numbers and things like that. So this is just expected points added on a per play basis, right? Who was the best offense in the Big Ten, in the ACC, excuse me? And that was Miami. You can look at the graphic there. They were just ahead of Florida State for the best offense, again, on the far right. How about the best defense? Well, who is highest up the graphic right there? That's Miami. Again, this Hurricane squad was the best team on both sides of the football in the ACC. They dominated that conference. Now, they had 2 really disappointing losses, but when you take everything and aggregate it together, and this is one of the reasons why, on top of beating Notre Dame, the committee got Miami into the playoff, because Miami was just better than their competition. And there's some good teams on here. Georgia Tech's a good team. SMU's a feisty bunch. Pitt's done a lot of good things, right? You can go across the board. There's a lot of good teams. I mean, you had Duke winning. I mean, they've somehow found a way to win the conference championship game, right? So there's some feisty football teams on this in this conference, right? It may not be Big Ten level or SEC level, but there's some good squads. And Miami was head and shoulders above them. No one else was even close. And this was, of course, the whole argument for Miami is that, listen, when you actually watch them play, or you look at the data, or both, they were clearly better than everyone else they played, including Notre Dame. They dominated Notre Dame, right? The game was a 3-point game, but if you go back and watch that game, Miami was physically better. They executed better. Notre Dame made some great plays to kind of hang around and be in the game, but Miami was better, clearly. Right. And that's been the case with the Hurricanes all season long. They've been better than I think pretty much everybody they played. Their 2 losses were because of mistakes on their end, not because of falling short of their competition. The reality is this Hurricanes team already is stacked. They're already really good and they're playing at a high level, and they just got a high concentration of blue chip talent. There is no reason to think this Miami Hurricane team, it's not like there's a risk of them slowing down. I think they're just going to accelerate up and get better and better and better. And I think the ACC right now, they got a real problem on their hands because there's no one. Again, look at this graphic, guys. And this is not counting this latest recruiting class and all the extra talent coming in. This Hurricanes team is already head and shoulders above everybody else, and they're about to get even better. That's a scary sight for the ACC and, frankly, for future college football playoff matchups.
Yeah, Nick, and I think the graph kind of speaks volumes here. It is hard to do what Miami does and be able to do it year in and year out, especially even if we're talking about the ACC, which admittedly, if you are a realist and you look at the college football landscape, is one of the weaker Power 4 conferences, saying SEC and the Big Ten obviously have more top-tier talent in it, but Miami dominating this conference the way it is, we saw just a few years ago, Florida State was right up there with them. Last couple of years, they fall off. They come to this season suspecting to be, okay, maybe they're back. They got a couple guys on there. They got transfer quarterback. They're sounding a lot different. As you can see, they're better, but still, they're not dominating. It's not easy to dominate. Clemson, perfect example. A team that was not on top of the ACC, on top of the college football landscape, multiple national championships under their belt. This is a team that's dominating for a long time, and boom, look, mediocrity, towards the middle of this chart. A team that's not doing really great. Other teams, North Carolina, a team that I would say for a couple of, a decade there, they're pretty feisty. Most background teams, they had a lot of great stuff going on. They produce a lot of top tier quarterbacks. You look in the NFL, there's about 3 guys in a row there that went on to play some level of NFL football coming from North Carolina and what they've been able to do. Now they're back in the pack. I'm sure they're going to make a turnaround eventually. I have faith that they have the tools to do that, but they're not looking too hot right now. So for Miami to do what they've been doing and doing at a high level here for quite some time, coming back, I think it's very impressive. And I think it's like you said, this style of recruiting to be able to get these elite players in the building just helps Miami do better and better things. And we saw it in the graph I showed earlier. They're going to be even better next year with the quality of talent they brought in than they already are. And we already see how much better they are than everybody right now. Now we're looking at a class with 66.6%, 2/3 of the class, blue chip players coming in for the Hurricanes. It is scary to think about if they're getting even more elite talent than they already got. They're going to be by far and away the best team in the ACC. And it's like you said, I think they're on the edge of breaking into that next tier to be, a consistent contender, not just, that middling team trying to break in. It's going to be a team that's already in. They're always in. Now we're talking about them winning the whole thing. So love what's going on with Mario Cristobal in this Miami team. I have a lot of hope for them for the future.